So hey, we've seen it. We've seen it from this year. This is kind of what we're looking at coming into the draft, coming up at the end of April. But speaking of the draft, obviously we had guys from a year ago from the inside. There's a lot of guys that I know maybe didn't do the best, but there are guys that showed up when they got the opportunity. I know we could speak from a Washington perspective. Chris Paul out of Oklahoma State. We mentioned him, road grader, guy he's a maul. He can run the ball. He just moves people out of the way. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, but he got time to sit back and watch. We had other guys ahead of him, so he wasn't getting all of the play time. You know what I mean? But when he got his opportunity, he showed up and he looked good. So what are you thinking from last year? Who are some guys that, obviously jumped off the board? And even though they might not have got picked at maybe the higher spot, but who were your top 5 from last year?
So I think number 1 for me would be Zion Johnson. He showed up and showed out in LA. That was a great pick for them, for the Chargers there. I'll throw Cole Strange up there just because he did a lot better than I thought he would. Yeah. That was the guy when the Patriots picked him in the first round. I was like, okay, are we really picking this guy?
Right.
But it was that typical Belichick pick where you question it, but the kid shows out. He played very well this year. And he's going to be a guy they kind of look to lead that offensive line this year because there's not much there anymore. There's not much left. Number 3 for me. Chris Paul, like you said, I like him a lot. And I like what he's going to bring to Washington, especially with whatever guard you get to pair with him. Yeah. Number 4 for me, I'll say Dylan Parham. From Vegas. Yeah. He's a guy that he kind of struggled early, but settled in and played well as the season progressed, and closer to the end of the year, he played very well. And number 5 for me, I'll say Zach Tom, the one that went to Green Bay, I believe from Wake Forest. He was a guy that was supposed to be a developmental guy, but got tossed into the fire when Bakhtiari went down and Runyon went down, and they had injuries all across that offensive line. And he played the majority of the spots across that line. He played both guard spots, and I believe he played both tackle spots. And kind of got tossed into the fire and played fairly well. So he's a guy that, whether he's at guard or tackle for the future for Green Bay, that's a guy they got in the 5th round. That's a very solid prospect for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now some of those guys weren't great, and some of them, especially ones that I talked about. Kenyon Green.
Yeah, he was disappointing.
That one got me because I was shouting his praises last year, get him, bring him, I want to get him, and it just didn't pan out. Now, mind you, he was at Houston, but still, I expected so much more from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but he was a guy I had going top 10 last year. I had him going 7 to the New York Giants, and when he slid all the way to 17 or whatever it was in Houston got him, I was like, this is a steal, great pick, starting guard day 1, and he totally flopped last year. Now we'll see if he can bounce back this year, but last year did not look good.
It didn't. It was rough to watch, but it also allows everybody to know, ain't no expert on here. You know what I mean? We watch all the same film. We watch all the drills. We watch all that stuff. But sometimes you just can't call it. Sometimes you can't get inside of here, man. And it just did not work out for him. I'm going to throw you a couple more names. Marquise Hayes out of Oklahoma. And obviously a lot of attention was given to Tyler Lindenbaum last year out of Iowa. What did you think about how they did?
Hayes was solid. I mean, he kind of earned his way into some playing time and played fairly well once he got it. Linderbaum, for me, though, he was good. I liked him a lot. I loved him coming out of Iowa. That was a guy that, for me, if you were doing a big board last year, he was a top 10 overall talent, in my opinion. Yeah. And even though he was a little bit small for the NFL at center, he showed out. He played fairly well. I mean, it took him a little bit to get going, as it does most young offensive linemen, but once he settled in, he played very well. And that's a very solid guy for Baltimore to use in the interior for years to come.
Yeah. And if they continue to do what they love to do, which is run the ball, you got your guy. But as we know, we don't know if that offense is going to stay the same now that obviously Greg Roman is no longer there, and apparently their quarterback wants out. So we'll see how that whole thing plays out.
We'll see how that goes.
and follow up for updates on NFL Edition Thursday nights, because I know they'll give you anything breaking. News. Oh my goodness. But look, hey, I asked you this last week, and I'm going to ask you again for this week. I asked you about your Mr. Irrelevant tackle. Do you have a Mr. Irrelevant guard from last year?
Oh, from last year. Okay, let's take a look at the ones that were drafted way late there. That's a good question.
And I mean, if you have one for this year, you can definitely share that one out.
Okay, well, this actually works out because I can rep my Michigan boys again. But Andrew Stuber went to the Patriots late 7th round, and again, kind of was one of those role players that competed for that playing time with injuries and everything. Came in and did fairly well. Wasn't great by any means, but he was a solid guard for New England last year, and for this year, that's a good one. I don't know that I really have one. Because it's kind of tough to tell when that run on the lineman's going to end in that day 3. Like, are most of the guys going to go round 5 and round 6, and then there's not much left for round 7, or like it's kind of tough to place. So I'll say I don't really have one for interior.
Okay. I like that. Hey, look, I would love it if the linemen went higher. For those of you that don't know, I have a show on Wednesdays called Washington Football Weekly, and every year going into the season, we'll do a mock 53-man roster. If you ever look at my rosters, I have like 12, 13, 14 O-linemen. All right. Part of that is because Washington seems to be prone to injury, and we need multiple lineups of O-line. But the other part is that that's a luxury. You can never have too many linemen, especially if you have like a second level that's not as good, but they're willing to move up and start working. I love that. I'm a huge O-line guy, so the fact that these guys potentially are going to move up, and we're going to start seeing more guys come off the board. Oh, yeah. I'm loving that. I know you love that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I love any chance to see these big guys go early.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.